I think my.
You think you're what? I can't wait to hear where this is going.
My fantasy football team name in that league that we're in is going to be. It's going to be. Stop the spread, because it has both a football and vaccine.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I was actually going to ask you what kind of. We have a big weekend coming up here. What kind of prep work? And then by prep work, I mean like what kind of prep work have you been doing for this weekend?
You know me, I'm drinking every night because I drink to my accomplishments. And, we podcast, so I'm ready. We're ready to go. This is how we prep.
No, I'm still. So we're recording this on September 1st. It's what day is it today? Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I think I finally feel good from last weekend's bachelor party, and now I'm just going to ride the way from this podcast on right into Labor Day, right into Draft Day weekend. So F it, let's get loaded, because this is the Loaded Box Podcast,
where we never finish first because we finished last.
DJ, we're getting to the age, man. I don't know how much longer I can roll like this. We talked about this last podcast.
I don't know how you do it.
The last few weekends have just been crushing, and historically what happens to us on draft weekend.
It's one day, and it's not a good day. The good thing is that I have that. Well, it sucks and it's good, because usually the next day I have a draft at noon, and I look miserable.
Yeah.
This year I have to somehow do it at 7 at night, and I'm going to try to drive 2 hours afterwards. So that'll see how that goes.
The funny thing too, so like our draft is on Sunday of Labor Day weekend. So it always just feels weird drinking on a Sunday the way it is. But this year, my goal is to not get a ride home from your mom, but I want to give your mom a ride home.
Good luck with that. She's definitely going to be giving us a ride home.
We're going to need all the luck we can get. And good luck to all you fantasy players out there. It is our like official fantasy draft weekend. So this is unfortunately the final fantasy football preview that we're going to be doing here of the offseason. But the good thing is, man, DJ, next week, or I guess it's Sunday before we go to our draft, we roll right into our season predictions episode. That's probably one of the top 3 favorite episodes we do of the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I just haven't even looked at it yet, so I've got to get going over these next 3 nights. Friday, it'll be finished for sure, because family's out of town Friday, and I literally am by myself at home.
That's gold, and you're going to get all the latest information before you do your season prediction, so you're set.
Exactly.
Well, DJ, I like that we kind of saved this particular episode for right now, because if you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, obviously you see DJ's got a Packer hat on. I've got a Dolphin shirt on, and that means we're previewing the fantasy relevant players of those 2 teams. So obviously you got to sit back, have a few beers, enjoy this episode. But in case you missed any of our other ones, we've done a pretty good amount of other teams. I don't want to rattle through the whole list, but if you go to loadedboxpodcast.com, you will find all of the episodes that we've done so far with all the team previews. DJ, we're going to kick this off. I figured I'd save the best for last, so we're gonna do the Packers first here.
Okay.
And the other good thing about this is you told me before the episode that you just got yourself a hefty bag of Taco Bell. So you're gonna be given analysis while drinking Miller Lite and crushing soft shell tacos. There's the bag rip. And I already told you that I'm proud of you, because you're a hard shell taco guy, and soft shell are just so much better. So you're making the right call here.
The only reason I went soft shell, as I mentioned before, is so that I'm not crunching into the microphone. I was doing it for the people, for the fans. You can watch me eat if that's how you get off. And it's not a loud crunch. Although ASMR, I could have done some crunchy. Shit.
I was going to say, what was your acronym? I think we should start over, and you should go back and take those soft shells back and see if you can replace them for hard shell.
I might just throw them in the oven for like 30 minutes and see if I can just crisp them up.
That's how they do it at the store, man. I've been told. Well, let's kick this damn thing off. We're going to start with the favorite player in the history of your football life. It's Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, my God.
I don't even want to call it a bounce back year last year, but he exceeded a lot of people's expectations, and you are not backing down from him doing it again this year. You have Aaron Rodgers ranked as your quarterback 2. I've got him at quarterback 8, even though I'll get into why I'm not super comfortable with that. But the average draft position right now is him as the quarterback 5 as the last pick in the 4th round. So DJ, after a crazy offseason, a lot of unknowns, an offseason that's eventually going to cost me $100 to you because Aaron Rodgers, unless for some reason dies, and week 1 when they play on that Sunday, he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And I know that you're probably looking at a quarterback that's way too early in fantasy to even draft, so you're probably not going to have him. But why do you believe he's going to finish as the second best fantasy quarterback this season?
So he finished last year as number 3?
I believe so. Yeah.
It was 48 touchdowns, right? I think he had a shit ton of yards. This is just off of memory. I have him up. Yep, he was quarterback 3 behind Josh Allen and Kyler Murray.
Yep.
And obviously both those guys have that rushing upside, but Rodgers still has that athleticism. And Ben, Aaron Rodgers is a quote guy. I don't know if you heard this quote the other day, and I'm guessing you did it. And I think once I tell you, you're going to move him up to number 1. He said one of the guys asked him if if he's motivated by revenge or something like that. I don't know if it was Domowski, if it was McAfee. I can't remember. He's on so many things. And it's like if it's true he's motivated by revenge and all that stuff. And he's like, no, it's not revenge. It's a reckoning. And right there, that's a Super Bowl. That's a Super Bowl winning comment. Now I'm convinced I'm bought in on Super Bowl. He's going to go 55 touchdowns. He's going to run in 7. He said it's not revenge. It's a reckoning. And I already in my head am picturing the highlight reel after the season with it beginning of him saying it's not revenge. It's a reckoning. And him just throwing darts all over the place. And that's all I need. That's all I need. Yeah. I should just move him up to quarterback 1 after that. But I mean, he's Aaron Rodgers. He goes on these wrecking tours. He hates the front office. He said it. He's 100% in. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't. And I honestly think we're going to get to MVS. I think he's about to take a huge step. And I've mentioned this to you. I'm about to give away my secret. I think he's going to take a huge step, and he's just going to add another weapon to that arsenal he has. Plus, he has Randall Cobb there. So his mindset coming to this year, I'm right. He's ready to go, man. He's ready to go. I do like
the wording there. I also believe that you just gave away a huge spoiler to Sunday's episode as we do season previews. However, if anyone's been listening before, that spoiler has been given out the last 4 or 5 years. You never don't predict the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers to lead them to the Super Bowl. So he could have whispered nothing in that interview, and you'd have been like, Super Bowl quarterback, fantasy quarterback number 1. It wasn't going to matter what he said.
I know, but when you hear that, dude, and the Aaron Rodgers quote history, it's exciting. When you hear that come out of his mouth as a Packer fan and as a Packer opponent, you have to hate it, especially if you're like a Bears-Vikings fan. And as a Packers fan, you got to be like, yes, he's about to go fucking scorch earth on these teams.
I'm going to let you do a little bit of the kind of like the leading on the Packers. I mean, I've got my thoughts, but this is the team that you live and breathe. So I'm going to ask you some more questions here.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the quarterbacks right now, as they come off the board, we're looking at the 48th player off the board is Rodgers. 51st is Russell Wilson. 52nd is Dak Prescott. Let's say all 3 of those guys are on the board and you want to target a quarterback. Why are you sell me Aaron Rodgers over those guys? Because those guys add so much more on the rushing side, and they still play in offenses that are going to pass the shit out of the ball. You look like you're confused.
No, Russell Wilson's offense is going to change back to what it was. Russell Wilson has big first half, fall off in the second half. They're going back. Last year, they tried to let Russell cook, and it worked for a little bit, and it fell off the face of the earth in the second half. They have to run the ball. That's kind of like what they even if it's not good, that's part of what they are, and that just sets Russell Wilson up for success, just the illusion that they're going to run the ball. And his pass attempts are going to tick down big time this year. I mean, I think they've kept more running backs and less wide receivers this year.
They kept 5 running backs.
Yeah, than they ever have. So that tells me a little something. And then Dak, I mean, I don't think he's going to be running the ball. I honestly, truly believe he will not run the ball like he used to. And he'll be sliding earlier when he does.
That. Yeah.
So I think him and Rodgers will be around that same rushing, yards area because Dak's he's a great pocket passer. He doesn't need to run if he doesn't have to. It's only situational. Same with Aaron Rodgers. It's just Aaron Rodgers is more talented. He's just a better quarterback. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the quarterback that doesn't play for Mike McCarthy in this situation, and is Aaron Rodgers in this case. Dak Prescott is not Aaron Rodgers, and yeah, I'm just taking the more talented quarterback. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, if I'm sitting 7th, 8th round and Aaron Rodgers on the board, I'm gonna be like, all right, I guess I'll take a quarterback here.
And to play devil's advocate against my own question a little bit, it's a little bit as to what you hinted to. Is Dak going to run as much this year? There's that unknown. And what are we going to get from Russell Wilson? Are they going to revert back to rushing? So if those questions go in your head, then yeah, maybe you take Rodgers over those two because of the fact that he's a better pure passer. That the position is still quarterback at the end of the day. That's what they're getting paid to do. That's what they're going to do. So like I said, in that area, I'm very unlikely to take a quarterback the way it is. You just look at those names and you're like, Jesus, in fantasy, you want the running quarterback. But in this scenario, it's almost like you give the pure passer the nod over a guy like that just because of that uncertainty.
Yeah. I mean, it's the consistency, right? You know what you're going to get from Aaron Rodgers. Like, it. And Dak might just finish. Dak is not the wrong pick. Like, if you take him ahead of Aaron Rodgers, whatever. Like, I'm on board with that. That's fine. I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. I'm just going to take Aaron Rodgers number one because of consistency. He's going to do it on a week-to-week basis. And, I mean, it's a reckoning. But I like the guaranteed consistency out of him. And he's going to take less injury risk right now. So I have that going for me as well.
Way to circle back on that. Let's go to the Packers running backs. Aaron Jones, RB7. You got A.J. Dillon as the RB35. We are essentially where the ADP has Dillon, and then we're actually pretty close on Jones. And then you and I are both actually pretty close on Dillon as well. I actually just moved Aaron Jones. I think I had him around, I think it was anywhere between like 9 and 11. And the more I was thinking about it, I was doing that because of the uncertainty around Aaron Rodgers. And once he came back, it's like, okay, that offense is still going to be potent. We learned about David Bakhtiar. He's going to miss the first 6 games for sure. I think that's confirmed with being on PUP.
Well, yeah, and he'll be back the 7th game.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to say that he's not important to the run game, but we all know that the Packers offensive line it's almost like they're just built to pass block anyways. And the fact that and the fact that they have Rodgers, it's like, okay, well, we're going to defend against that, and the running game is going to work anyways. So I've just been slowly bumping Aaron Jones up, and I've got him all the way to RB6. And no shit, man, if I've got pick 6 or 7 in a redraft league, whether it's standard, half, full PPR, I'm not opposed to pulling the trigger on Aaron Jones here, and I feel like you're probably in the same boat.
Yeah, it's the right pick. He consistently in the last 2 years has been like the top 7. He's going to continue to be more involved in the passing game. I think you're going to see his carries go down a little bit with A.J. Dillon being more of a workhorse this year. Not workhorse, but more involved as a pure runner. And and Aaron Jones, I guess it's A.J., split out running across formations, and his receptions are going to tick up. So it's all going to even out. What did he end up with last year? I'm just pulling it up for touchdowns because I know he went down from touchdowns from 2019 to 2020.
Well, he had to because didn't he have close to 20 2 years ago?
Yeah, he did. So
dude was a touchdown machine. So I think that was everyone's thing about him last year. It was like, oh, he can't live up the touchdown number. Well, when you still get that many yards and you still get a bunch of touchdowns, you don't have to get 20 touchdowns.
Looks like 11 total touchdowns he had last year, which is, I mean, very good.
I would say he's probably going to bump touchdown progression, baby.
Yeah. I mean, receptions were only 47. I can see that going up to the 60s. I see his receiving yards going up around 450 to 500 yards this year. So it's going to even out, I think.
He missed time too, didn't he?
Last year?
Yeah, I think he missed a little bit of time, I thought.
I don't think so. Did he? Maybe I'm on crack, but I don't think he missed. He did miss like 2. You're right. He missed 2 games in there. But yeah, I mean, that just vaults him up a little bit higher than what he finished last year. But yeah, nothing's going to change. It's just going to even out, but he's going to be more involved in the passing game. So I mean, he's going to be used more and more like I think McCaffrey gets used, but Dillon will give him more breaks when it comes to the running game. And
speaking of Dillon, so if he's going as the 35th running back, the math on that makes him your RB3. So in some scenarios, he's probably going to be a weekly starter for some teams, potentially in a flex, or if you go zero running back, or if you go wide receiver heavy and get your quarterbacks and tight ends, this is a guy that you might have to start. I know that that's not a strategy that you incorporate in fantasy. You're not a big guy just to like let running backs sit. But if you do have that strategy, is A.J. Dillon the kind of running back that you wouldn't mind plugging in as a starter more often than not? How do you see that playing out based on what you've heard from training camp, preseason, and just your general thoughts being a Packers guy?
I truly believe A.J. Dillon is going to be involved in this offense. Like I truly believe he's going to be involved in the running game, purely the running game, more than what we saw. I mean, we saw Jamal Williams involved, and I think they like him a lot more than Jamal Williams, and that's why. And I said this years, like when they drafted him, A.J. Dillon was brought in to replace Jamal Williams, not Aaron Jones. I said this forever, multiple times, but nobody wanted to listen. But it's just you can't replace Aaron Jones type of talent with A.J. Dillon. It's just not the same. A.J. Dillon has like one specific skill set, and it's just not the total all-encapsulating running back that Aaron Jones is. He has the talent to do everything. He pass blocks, he runs, he catches the ball. But I tell you what, Aaron Jones is going to be on the field, and so is A.J. Dillon at the same time a lot, and he's going to carry the ball. And it's going to be more than people expect. Yeah. And it's going to be fun. He's going to be used as that play-action threat, and Aaron Jones is going to be running routes.
Have you read anything or like saw any reports about Dillon being like a primary goal line back? Like, is that something you need to potentially worry about? Like him sniping those like inside the 5-yard line touchdowns?
Aaron Jones to me is still the goal line guy. If people have ever watched Aaron Jones, he's just more crafty and more comfortable around the goal line than any running back on that team. He's just more. He's so talented around the goal line. And
you've said it a million times. Aaron Rodgers likes to pass at the goal line anyways. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's true as well. Yeah.
So,
but he's going to be in those situations. Number one, they know he's going to secure the ball. He's not going to turn it over. Number two, he finds holes. He's little and he just pushes his way through it. It works. And why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is the saying. So you don't go away from Aaron Jones when it comes to the. You don't want to risk the turnovers. You know what you have. Keep Aaron Jones in the game.
I'm sure he'll snipe a few here or there. That's just how it is sometimes. Like if Jones is the one that was in the first 6-7 plays of the drive and now he's getting a breather, and that's going to piss off. It's going to piss off an Aaron Jones fans. This first time Dillon does that, and fantasy Twitter is going to go into a frenzy. Oh, Aaron Jones sniping them all. But like, I think that's going to be more so of an outlier situation as well. I don't think we're going to see him just, they're inside the 5-yard line. Here comes Dillon. I don't think that's the case.
Jamal would snipe his touchdowns as well every now and then. It's just getting a breather, or even if they go goal line heavy. Yeah, I mean, that was annoying. But a goal line heavy situation where, again, Aaron Rodgers will end up probably play acting out of that anyways. But
it's going to be a Robert Tonyan touchdown anyway.
It'll be a Robert Tonyan touchdown probably, 70% of the time.
Yeah, no shit. Let's move on to some of those pass catchers. We'll start with the wide receivers. The ones right now based on ADP that are draft eligible are essentially Davonte Adams as the wide receiver 1, going as the 8th pick overall. And then Randall Cobb is just kind of hanging out in the back of the drafts. But hey, I know you're shaking. You haven't done your hand thing yet today. I know you're shaking your head. If you want to talk about any other wide receiver during this, by all means, the floor is yours, because just because they're not in everybody's ADP where they might be drafted, you want to take your dart toss at the end of the draft. Do with it whatever you may. And DJ, based on some of our messages, I feel like maybe you've got a pointed dart toss in mind.
I don't even think it's a dart toss. I think it's just people seeing all the drops at MVS. Obviously, we don't need to talk about Davonte Adams. Davonte Adams is Davonte Adams. The fact that you have him at wide receiver 2, I'm fucking insulted. I'm insulted. I am personally insulted and attacked that you have him at the gall to put him at wide receiver 2.
I do, but let me put you in a hypothetical here.
No.
Because, if Davonte Adams is going as the 108, let's go right down the line here. Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Zeke Elliott, Chubb, Aaron Jones. Let's say those are your 7 off the board. You're on the clock. You can have Adams, or you can go Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler. Are you gonna just be like, I'd like to take a running back just because I need an elite one? Or are you like, you know what, screw that, I'm just gonna get the best receiver?
I'll take the receiver there and then grab the running back on the way back. That is going to be around the same.
All right.
But
I just
that
know that
doesn't have
you're a
anything to do with
Saquon
wide
guy.
receiver 2.
No, I don't. I totally pivoted from what you were saying
Yeah,
about
I'm
my
still
thing.
offended.
Well, you can go ahead and be offended. You're going to be offended for a while because I'm not moving him to 1.
It's the dumbest thing you've ever said to me. I'll accept you not having Aaron Rodgers as quarterback 1, but not having Davonte Adams as wide receiver 1 is just it's a scam. It's a Travis Scamockery.
He's been talking so much about being the top paid wide receiver that something's probably bad going to happen. I'm just going to play it safe and go with Tyreek. I'll bleed about it.
How is that safe? You know the safe pick is Davonte Adams. And he finished ahead of him, FYI, last year. Anyways, I'm looking to see where – now I want to see where my guy MVS finished. So everybody, when you think about MVS, what do you think about when you hear MVS's name?
What do I think about? I think about a straight line burner who will get you an 80-yard touchdown every 5 weeks. And then the week you use him, he'll have 3 drops, and then he'll fumble against the Colts and cost the team the game.
So the drops, right? The drops was the thing I was looking for, right?
There you go.
That's the thing everybody sees. They come up on red zone. It's like deep pass to MVS, and then he drops it for a touchdown, right? And that it's not a wrong thing to think. I don't know why, but took a bite of taco and decided to try to talk.
That's perfect.
Terrible idea. Anyways, Randall Cobb's undraftable. Should not be drafted. He's ADP wide receiver 61. MVS finished as wide receiver 52. People don't realize he had almost
people are drafting people. I mean, well, I don't even want to talk about people drafting. The Packers kept Cobb on the 53 because Rodgers essentially made him, right? Like if the whole Rodgers thing wouldn't have been there, he's not probably even making the roster.
I mean, he'll have 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and they'll all be in the red zone where he trusts him the most. When he's making moves, he's running around. Right, Cobb's not going to get open on his own, but when he needs somebody, when he's scrambling, Cobb is that guy. That's always bad. He just kind of pops open. That's where he's going to come in, inside the 10-yard line, even when he's running around. But MVS had 690 yards. It was almost 700 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. He's had the most 40-plus yard passing touchdowns the last 2 years since 2019. I've watched this guy in training camp, and it's not Davonte Adams good, but the confidence that he's gained from last year to this year, you can just see it on the field. And training camp, he's dominated. And the only people talking about it are, the beat reporters and none of the national news, really. And I know you said, one national person did, but not really. People nationally aren't talking about MVS like they did last year, which I love.
No, and the guy I was talking about is La Crosse, Wisconsin radio guy. So
exactly.
Not national.
So people aren't talking about him at all. And I'm watching this guy who I think is going to end up being, I'm not kidding, I think he's going to run around that 30 area. I think he's going to run around that 30 wide receiver area, and I'm sniping him in those later rounds because people aren't. Watch out for MVS this year. I'm telling you right now. And it's going to be game 1. It's going to start out.
DJ's
he ain't dropping balls.
Just putting, not even I don't want to call it a guarantee, but you're just putting it out there just so you have a little bit of you got some fallback here in case it does work. You can just take that soundbite there and you can just play it for the world to know.
Absolutely.
His ADP right now on Fantasy Pros, they basically compile a bunch of other people's rankings and put them together. Wide receiver 75, which means he's not being drafted. So you don't even have to draft him that early, DJ. Take him in the last round.
Wide receiver 52 last year, 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's
Randall Cobb's got people shook.
That's unbelievable that people are that naive that they're just not drafting him and they think Randall Cobb is a thing.
You did say enough to me via text that one day so I just updated my rankings a little bit yesterday, and not that I have him super high by any means, but I did bump MVS up just because, I mean, I believe in people that tell me stuff from people that are vested that heavily into teams. For example, I'll throw a name out that only you and I know. Our buddy Andrew, huge 49ers fan, follows beat writers, follows them on Twitter, does all the training camp shit. I'm like, dude, tell me about their backfield. What the hell can I expect? Because as just like an observer of the 49ers, like I pay a lot of attention to the NFL, but I don't know everything about every team. Never claim to. I ask people that follow it. So I'm just like, tell me about that. So if you tell me something about MVS, I'm going to take it a little bit back just because I'm the same way as you'll find out with the Dolphins here. I'll tone it back a little bit, but I'll believe some of it.
I think it's reasonable. Yeah, I mean, you almost have to. Like and I listen to like some of the beat writers myself, but like it is what it is. But we have more an ear on those teams. We're paying attention more, and yeah, I mean, historically, if you're correct on these things, it's somebody that you need to listen to those people that are kind of tuned in, like Mr. John Chapman for the Niners as well. I've gotten to a little battle with him recently on the old Twitter accounts. And his minions just come after me. It's fucking hilarious. I love it.
Great. I need to find a minion. Let's talk about the tight end situation because Robert Tonyan kind of burst onto the scene last year. We're already talking about him as a guy that might snipe some touchdowns just because of all the other weapons. But he's currently going tight end 9, which puts him in the middle of the 8th round. So it's kind of one of those tight ends where we've been talking, hey, if you don't get one of the top 3 dudes, pass. Wait till you get to like the 10th, 11th, 12th. So he's kind of in that area right now. I know that you're a dude that waits on the tight end position. You're not going to get the Kelseys, the Kittles, the Wallers. Is Tonyan a target? Like, I feel like that it's almost like a homerish question because I'm the same way with Geseki, as we'll find out. I'm like, yeah, as the 13th tight end off the board, why the hell wouldn't I take Mike Geseki? But as the 10th tight end off the board or the 9th, I'm assuming you're probably the same way with Tonyan.
I probably won't take him, but I tell you what, he's a steal. And if people think he's going to regress from his 10 touchdowns, I believe, last year, no, he's not going to. This guy's hands, I'm telling you right now, legitimate vacuum. He does not drop the ball. And when they get in the red zone, Rodgers is looking for Big Bobby Tonyan all year. And again, this comes to training camp. You don't want to take a lot from it, but when it's last year is evidence, and then you see it even better this year. He doesn't drop anything. His hands right now, it's something like I haven't seen before. This guy's giant. His hands, he's sucking everything in. Obviously, he was a steal when he was going in like the 12th run. He's still a steal. He'll finish top 5 in tight ends just because of purely touchdowns and Rodgers trust, but this guy is going to have 10 touchdowns again. Like legitimately more than confident, like 90% sure unless he's injured, he's going to have 10 touchdowns. The guy is a monster right now. I'm locking it in. Again, I come off homer, but I'll tell you when I think a guy's going to be bad. Like I think Randall Cobb's trash. Like I knew EQ was going to be stop. And like I know that. But Tonyan is, sorry, I was saying his name wrong. Tonyan is what he was last year. It is not. There's no regression from Tonyan this year. I'm telling you that right now. Get him in that 8th round if you're a tight end guy who doesn't get a tight end in those first 2 rounds.
I think what you just said there is spot on with what I wanted to say, but you said it more eloquently and then how I was going to get to it. So I don't need to spend a ton of time on him. Where I land with him is, all right, if we're looking at Aaron Rodgers, and let's say, so what, he threw 48 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, that's a lot of touchdowns.
Even if he takes a step back and throws 40, someone has to catch him. Davonte Adams isn't going to catch more than 15 touchdowns, right? I mean, that'd be a hell of a season.
You're capping him at 15?
Well, I just realistically, yes. Can he go over? Sure.
Did you see the Jordan Pippen memes?
So. I take that back. He won't score more than 30 touchdowns. Okay. But someone has to catch these touchdowns. You just got done throwing Randall Cobb under the bus. I know you're an MVS guy. I know he's going to throw a couple to some running backs. But yeah, is Lazard going to be catching all these touchdowns? Is Randall Cobb going to be catching all these touchdowns? They'll get a few, even if they both get a handful. We're still talking about double-digit touchdowns that have to go to somebody. So
Lazard's that's my Johnson.
What's that?
Lazard is like Keyshawn Johnson, but not as talented. But he's like that third down guy. Like third down.
Yeah, move the chains.
If is being covered, he's got that big body with good hands. But fantasy numbers, He's not putting them out.
Yeah, they don't really come with him. I get that, but that's why I could justify taking Tunyon in the 8th. I don't personally see myself as someone that would do it, but the justification is there. Like if someone did it, or if you were asking advice, like, oh, I don't want to wait too long for a tight end, I'd be like, take Tunyon in the 8th or the 9th. Like
you can call
that's
me
just
as biased
something that you could do.
Oh, go ahead. You
No,
can
that's
call me
it.
as biased as you want. You can call me as biased as you want. I don't draft Packers in this state of Wisconsin. I just don't. But I do know
Right.
their worth.
Their ADPs get inflated at like about a round, depending on who we're drafting with. But yeah, they do.
At
It's probably the same thing in most people's states, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're in Florida and you're drafting all these Dolphins players.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get to the Dolphins, let me tell you a little bit more about Mangrate. Because DJ, I did chicken out. I did not take the Mangrate to the bachelor party, and thank God. It got a little dicey. I probably would have forgot it where we were staying. So did not
Can't
take that with. But you know what? And I really should bring it to our party. But we've got so many other like crock pot dishes that we do. But yeah, I might get there early. Just throw some steaks on, throw some chicken on. And you know what? I think you guys should do that too at your fantasy party this year. You might not draft that well, but guess what? The draft isn't about winning championships. You can win championships with the combination of your draft and the waiver wire. At the draft, win the draft by drinking as many beers as you can and by firing up the grill and using the Mangrate and just making out of this world food. And you can get 25% off your grates and your brushes at mangrate.com by using promo code LOADED. So 25% off using promo code LOADED. And DJ, like I said, I saved the best for last.
Here we go.
I'm a little nervous here because you know me, it's week 0. Like we're not even into week 1 yet. So
don't talk about week 0. So I had a nightmare in week 0.
Gamble through it, baby. That's all I can say is gamble through
the
it.
gamble was good. It was the Nebraska that was bad.
Oh yeah. And doesn't that suck as a college fan if your team loses week 1? Like knowing like how hard it is.
Someone's like, how do you cheer for Nebraska going on? I'm like, I don't. I'm going back to last year. I'm just cheering for the teams I'm gambling for. And I'm much more happy this way. Like, okay, they suck. Now I know it, and I don't have to know later. I go right back into gambling, DJ, and I'm only cheering for the teams that I bet on.
Yeah, that's not a terrible strategy. I just hope as a Gators fan, I do not go through that on Saturday. Friday Night Lines. Are we going to have one this week?
This Friday, baby. Yo, 100% by myself.
It's going to get the 2021 debut. I'm pumped.
I'm pumped.
Here we go.
StreamYard debut.
Let's talk about something I am super pumped about, and that's their 2021 Miami Dolphins. Let's go right into the quarterback position. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback 21, so not super fantasy relevant, going in the 14th round right now. Typically, I'm guessing that most people would eye him up as a backup. Like if you're going to roster 2 quarterbacks, maybe this is a guy you're going to have. DJ, you know me around this time of year. I just mock draft my ass off. And I've been trying to play around with how freaking loaded, pun intended, I can get my roster to be and waiting until the 14th round and making Tua my starter. And I love the way my team looks. And I love the Tua hype that I internally have. Not so much the national media, because that's just a joke at this point. Like I don't want to even talk about that. Mm-hmm. But man, if that were to play out and you could get your starting quarterback in the 14th round, like I said, I'm not totally endorsing this idea, but if you can wait and grab your starter in the 14th round, your team is out of bounds. Like your team is out of bounds. It's so good.
I mean, if that's your starter, you're in trouble. You know what I like to call him? I like to call him Pua because he plays like shit. he's a trash quarterback. The team doesn't want him.
Wait.
They're trying to get Deshaun Watson. So let's take QB5. Let's put Deshaun Watson in and let's plug him in here. And now you've got a top tier football team that's in the playoffs and competing for a Super Bowl.
What a way to just insult me. Like I get all excited about Dolphins week 0. I've got all the hope in the world. And then you just completely shit on the player that I've dedicated my life to the last 2.5, 3 years.
You can't tell me Deshaun Watson's still not on he's an option right now. He's a legitimate option until we hear otherwise. And I'm waiting for it.
We've heard otherwise. You're not paying attention to the right people. And DJ, I'm so mad at all the other news outlets right now that are still making this a thing that I am not going to dive into the same thing and become another.
They're not saying no. They're not saying no.
Yes, they are. Just
no way.
And like I said, I'm not going down that road because I don't want to be another show that discusses this. It's not a conversation to have.
It is.
It isn't. Right now. I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm done with it. We're gonna go on to running back before you piss me off anymore.
Oh God, I can't wait for Deshaun Watson. Actually, I can. I don't want him there because I can't stand Miami.
Where's the mute button?
I can't stand Miami being good at all, and Deshaun Watson would actually make them good. So I'm good with the Tua thing. I hope he's the quarterback.
I'm gonna probably end up.
Quarterback.
So do I. We're probably going to end up talking a little bit.
Disappointed forever.
We're probably going to talk a little bit more about Tua as we obviously get into the wide receivers and tight ends. So I'll save a little bit back. I'm not even going to say it. Running back, because this is one guy that you were asking me about a week or so back. Myles Gaskin is going as the RB22. That's the last pick in the 4th round. You and I even on him. We both have him as running back 25. There's something about Myles Gaskin, and there's something about this Dolphins offense and the way that they have treated running backs semi-recently, and how a lot of people are anticipating that they will treat running backs this year, that make me say, geez, if you're taking this guy as a low-end RB2, there might be some disappointment in there. Like, that might be a thing that you end up regretting. However, let me pull this up here. I'll ad-lib for a second because I think this is worth noting when it comes to Myles Gaskin. Because like I said, I've been doing a lot of mock drafts lately. And if you're getting the running backs at this point in the game, you're literally drafting between Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskin, Kareem Hunt, Mike Davis, Raheem Mostert. I don't know about you, but none of those guys' names scream like someone that I absolutely want to start the way it is.
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I think if I were to pick between those guys, I would probably take Kareem Hunt. And I do, as a Dolphins fan, I think it is Gaskin's backfield. Like, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be the guy that gets the most touches. He's another guy that they don't. He's also another guy that they won't absolutely pull him from the goal line. Like, he's got goal line experience in the past. He has goal line touchdowns. That's something that you're not going to have to worry too much about. It's just the fact that their offensive line is still fairly suspect, and they've got 3 guys that look like they could just platoon and ride the hot hand. So I'm not completely opposed to it. He's going to go in that probably 22 to 25 range in most of the drafts that we're in. I don't think it's going to be me pulling the trigger, though.
You know, I'm getting vibes like and I just thought about this on my drive back home today from coaching. I'm getting like Lamar Miller, Kenyon Drake vibes where I was kind of excited about both those guys in their year they were getting drafted higher, and they disappointed me.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a Miami Dolphins thing with the running back position, where I think some people are hyping him. Some people are more realistic. I think you're actually more realistic, but I do see like hype around Myles Gaskins, and I'm like, I'm not feeling Myles Gaskins by any means. And now that I thought about it, and I'm like, you know, I'm getting Lamar Miller, you know, that hype for Lamar Miller. He was going like early second round, late first the 1 year, and he was just a massive disappointment. I mean, I'm getting Kenyon Drake, where I was super high on Kenyon Drake in his last year.
Yeah.
Just dead wrong on that one. So it's just the Dolphins organization. I don't know, until they get a superstar running back, I'm not gonna have one of those guys.
The crazy thing is here, so I just pulled up his game log, and he missed a lot of games in the second half of the season. But his game log, starting week 1 and 2, he had 9 carries and 7 carries. But his fantasy points in half PPR, 8.6, 11.2. Then he started seeing a bit more snaps. 12, 8, 17, 14, 12. So then towards the end of the year, he had 13, 31, and 15. So he's essentially guaranteed, if things stay somewhat the same, to get you double-digit points. And you talked on the last episode, well, what are you trying to get out of your RB2? 12-ish? Maybe a little bit more, hopefully a little bit more if you're taking it. But I don't know. You look at the stats and you're like, well, this is historically what this guy can get. So it kind of puts you back on like, do you want to take a risk on him? But at the same time, the offense has changed. A completely different play caller on right now. And you've got Savon Ahmed, who's still there. And you've got Malcolm Brown, who we'll see how that goes because they didn't obviously have him last year. They brought in their guy of who he was last year in Jordan Howard. And dude got cut after having – it was like 7 carries, 5 touchdowns, -1 yard. The dude had the coolest stat line potentially of all time. But that's the thing though. Like you're betting on him being the guy. If you're taking him as your RB2, you are essentially betting him just to be the guy. And I don't know. It's a bit tempting. I can't do it. I can't do it as a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I said that already. So it's like I heard everything you said. I actually unplugged my headphones so that I could listen to you as I walked away. So I knew you were gonna like what's the thing that they do in politics?
Oh, filibuster.
I knew you were gonna try to like filibuster a little bit, but I was like, I'm gonna hear everything he says and come back. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything more to add on Myles Gaskin. Actually, I think we talked about him for about 7 minutes too long.
We did. Let's move on to the wide receivers because the Dolphins wide receivers, when you think about fantasy relevancy, they're all just kind of hanging out in the same area.
Oh, I hate that wide receiver room so much.
Here's the thing. As a Dolphins fan, I love let's hold on. Let's take away injuries. Like if you could go on Madden and turn injuries.
Though, like from fantasy football perspective,
I'm getting
hate
there.
That.
Let's hypothetically play Madden here. And if we're playing a season and we can turn injuries off, I love these guys. I love the wide receiver room. However,
but even if you turn injuries off, Will Fuller would still get hurt.
And he'd miss week 1 due to suspension.
For sure, no doubt. Yeah, he'd probably just end up doing some kind of drug and getting suspended for sure.
So what a great line, though. He'd still find a way to get hurt. But yeah, like you said, though, this is not Madden, it's not injuries off, it's fantasy. And I wrote this in an article a while back about the Dolphins. And honestly, when it comes to the Dolphins wide receivers in fantasy, it's your personal preference. Like any of these guys, you could likely make a justification to being their fantasy wide receiver 1. Like who do you think of Fuller, Waddle, Parker is going to end up as the team's leading fantasy receiver?
Mike Geseki. I'm not even kidding. Like, I actually like him most out of all the options. I think he has the most fantasy points out of all the guys.
2 things. 1, I don't hate that answer. 2, we need to – you've always been calling him the Geseki. We need to do an enunciation thing.
Okay, but you get everything wrong, so it's about time I didn't say one wrong.
I do, but I'm doing this halfway from Mikey too, because he probably, as the loaded box name murderer aficionado, he would likely be on your team with this. But he still owes me a slamming of a beer, by the way, due to Noah Font and fans. But just, I am curious, if you take Geseki out of the equation, of those 3 receivers, who's your guess? Like who's your guess? If you that's your answer. If you have to think about it that long, it's like, how the hell do you even how do you even take Will Fuller like at wide receiver 42?
It's not Will Fuller to me because and maybe it's just me, and I also think other people have this sentiment, but Tua doesn't have a great arm. I do not trust his arm. I think that's honestly, Will Fuller doesn't just run flies. He's a solid wide receiver, but I think a lot of his game is deep downfield. I think it's Jalen Waddle year 1. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised just because of the different type of route tree he can actually run that people don't realize, and Tua's comfortability with him. I honestly think he might end up being his favorite target year 1, but I don't know. I have no idea. Because Davonte, I don't think he separates enough for Tua to be confident to throw to him. So it's really, to me, I'm looking at Geseki, who I know he loves. I know he loves him, and I actually drafted Geseki the other day.
You're an asshole.
And it's Waddle, I think. I don't know. I'm not drafting any of them besides Geseki.
It's super tough. The nice thing is, like, if you do take one of these guys, you're not taking him at starter value. I mean, Will Fuller's going early 3rd, Waddle's going, or I'm sorry, early 10th, Waddle's going mid 10th, and Parker's going late 13th. So it's not like you're not going to ruin your draft by taking any of these guys. So to answer my own question, I don't mind your answer. However, I do think that there is a little bit to Jalen Waddle's game where, especially in year one, he's going to be used a bit as a, I don't want to call him a decoy, but he's going to open the field for other guys.
You can't use
because
him as a decoy. He's his first year.
No, I mean, but remember how Henry Ruggs was used last year just as like a space creator? Like, let's just
I think they just sucked.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I think Jalen Waddle is better than him. But yeah. I'm just, what I'm saying though is like, if you have your cornerback lined up on him, and if he's running a deep cross or just a straight go or anything down the field, his speed commands safety help. And that's where your original answer of Geseki is probably the right one. I mean, we can even lump him into this conversation. Yeah. I don't care. That's completely fine. But it's like, where is Davonte Parker going to eat in this offense? I don't even like to use the cliche term, but I will because I already said it. It's in the RPO slant game. Like, that's what every Dolphins fan was pumped for, because Davonte Parker's best route is the slant. The RPO go-to pass is the slant. So will he be fine in that role? Sure. But do slants, if you can't completely create after the catch, result in a lot of fantasy points? Probably not, because Davonte Parker
throwing a slant.
Fuck you. As you said it though before too, where does Davonte Parker make his fantasy bread? Make his hay 35-yard passes where he's taking the ball off the dude's helmet, right? Yep. And will that be part of the offense this year? A little bit. Like, they're going to throw the ball down the field a little bit more.
It will be, because Tua has a noodle arm and he won't throw it to him if he's open.
You're such a butt. The crazy thing too, it's like, so I personally think Fuller could lead this receiver unit like in fantasy points. What scares me is he's already out week 1.
Yeah.
That injury history is a thing. Like, and it's a Dolphins wide receiver. He's going to get hurt. So you're not taking a huge risk on him, but I don't mind your theory of, well, let's take Waddle. Granted, he's got an injury too. All 3 of these guys are injury guys. That's what scares the shit out of me about all of this. The other thing that I'll touch on as well before we talk a little bit more about Geseki, the best Miami Dolphins wide receiver in camp, because Will Fuller really didn't participate in camp. And now he can't practice up until after week 1. Jalen Waddle was a pretty consistent contributor. A lot of beat writers consider him to be like the odds-on favorite to lead the team in targets and receptions. Davonte Parker did not participate in camp. Towards the end of camp, red jersey. Like, the dude hardly even got any reps. The best wide receiver in Dolphins
I thought they just wanted a new quarterback. So
you have got one-liners today. And he's already got that good number too for it. The best receiver in Dolphins camp, despite being hung up for the last 2+ weeks as well, Albert Wilson. Dude was racking 50-yard touchdowns. I'm not drafting him in redraft. Don't get me wrong here. But he was the most consistent guy. He was the guy eating because of that space that Waddle was creating. Like, there's something to be said about other dudes in this offense. But that's another thing too. If we're talking about 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers here, we're talking about Geseki. We're talking about running backs getting more action in the passing game. We're talking about Albert Wilson. There's so much spread out here that if you're drafting one of these guys, you're only going to want to use them bi-week, potential flex here or there if you have to, because you're going to have to get lucky for it to be his week to pop off.
Yeah, I'm not drafting any Dolphins wide receivers. That's just a fact. I haven't even considered them in positions. Like, I've seen them there and I was like, can't do it. like
even in mocks, man, even in mocks, I'm the same
running back I could take.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the one guy that you might consider here. We've already said his name a few times, Mike Geseki, going as the 6th pick in the 10th round. This kind of seems like your area for a tight end. Yeah. So if you're waiting on Tunyon in the 8th round and you're waiting until the 10th, is Geseki off the board when it's your turn?
I think I can get him in 11 or 12. I mean, I think typically in the leagues I'm in, the tight ends kind of drop down further than what I expect because I think people grab quarterbacks too early and they get like on these runs in the drafts that we're in. So yeah, I could see myself getting him a round or two later than that, than the 80. It is average draft position. So obviously, 11 and 12 is an option. Also 8 and 9 is an option. So it is the average. But yeah, I think in the leagues that I typically play in, I would draft him and it would be 11, 12 area for sure. It'd be like tight end quarterback or quarterback tight end in that range where I'm going 10, 11 or 11, 12.
Well, the thing too is so let's just say ADP holds true to form. He's tight end 13. So if everyone already has their tight end, plus if you don't have one, that means one other person has a second one already. So is there going to be a huge rush for other people to grab this second tight end? Maybe. You're going to have a few guys that are going to do the whole back-to-back thing. Like, I'm going to take Jonnu Smith and Mike Geseki just to have two decent options. You're going to have that. But like I said, maybe you can wait even longer, which is kind of funny too, because going into the season, I'm like, well, Geseki will get good red zone work. He'll obviously be a target, but the team was bringing in players to fit to his strengths, which was let's get open fast. Let's be able to create after the catch. And Geseki can do that, but he's this big-bodied tight end that you really you have him on the field so much as a slot receiver, and then you brought in these other receivers that can play, like Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle. So it's like, where does he fit? How does he fit in that tight end room? Because with the offense that they were using, with the offense Tua was in at Bama, you had a lot of inline tight end, and that's not what Geseki excels at. So right away, I was like, God, it's going to be a bit of a down year for him. But Jesus, then training camp happened, and he's getting talked about left and right. And then you see preseason happen, and in the first game, he gets the long 50-yard catch. And it just seems like there's great chemistry there. Even in the second game to the Falcons, seam shot, 30-some yards to Geseki, just made it look easy. There's great chemistry there. He finally had his breakout last year. That's a tight end I'm targeting, man. I've talked about this, not targeting too many Dolphins this year, despite being high on them. You'll see that in the next episode we do. But if there's one guy I'd probably target on this entire team, it's probably the tight end.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I like how you really petered out on me.
I have nothing else to. I mean, again, we've talked about it. What am I going to add? I just said the same thing over and over again. Plus, I'm getting yelled at.
Well, that happens. DJ, I guess we can just finish our beers and get ready for the episode that we're going to do on Sunday before our draft, because what we're thinking, we probably that draft starts at 3 or so. We're probably going to do that episode live. We'll be on Twitter and YouTube again at around probably noon, so we can get a good hour episode in and then have another drink and then head out to the party.
Sure. I don't know what time the draft starts. I'm just on the show for the road.
Isn't that great when you can go somewhere and you're you don't give a fuck about the schedule. You're just going wherever the roller coaster takes you.
It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. Yep. I just do whatever I want. It's great.
Looking forward to it. We'll be on live with that for our next episode. It's our season predictions, win-loss records for all the teams, playoff results, Super Bowl winners, award winners. It's a great time. We'll be drinking. Find us on Twitter at Loaded Box, that website, loadedboxpodcast.com. Check out our fantasy rankings there, all of our podcast episodes. We're available everywhere. Subscribe, rate, review. DJ, before you get yelled at, go ahead and send us out.
Bye.